Hey everyone, today I want to talk about one of the most important elements of writing compelling fiction: crafting characters that feel so authentic, so emotionally resonant, that readers can't help but connect with them on a deep, personal level. Think about the fictional characters that have stayed with you long after you finished their stories. The ones that felt like dear friends, or inspiring role models, or even infuriating enemies you love to hate. Chances are, those characters all had one crucial thing in common: they felt real. Despite living in the pages of a book, they somehow seemed as complex, nuanced, and alive as anyone you might meet in the real world. In this video, we're going to explore the key ingredients that go into creating characters like that. Characters your readers will relate to, root for, and remember long after they've turned the last page. By the end of our discussion, you'll have a clear understanding of what makes a character feel grounded and authentic, plus a toolbox of practical strategies to help you breathe that same depth and relatability into the characters in your own stories. We've got a lot of juicy stuff to cover, so let's dive right in. At their core, the most unforgettable characters feel like they could be real people. Sure, they might live in a dystopian future or have magical powers, but underneath all the genre trappings, there's something fundamentally human and recognizable about them. They have rich inner lives, distinct personalities, strengths and flaws and fears and hopes, just like we do. When we read about their struggles and triumphs, their relationships and transformations, a part of us sees ourselves reflected in them. That's the key to character creation, really, tapping into authentic human experiences and emotions, even in the most fantastical of stories. Your job as a writer is to craft characters who are as psychologically credible and complex as real people, so that readers instinctively connect with them on a heartfelt, bone-deep level. A great example of this is Harry Potter. Yes, he's the boy who lived, the prophesied hero in an epic battle of good versus evil, yada yada. But, at his essence, he's also a deeply relatable kid. Just like so many young readers, he grapples with feeling like an outsider, with the weight of expectations on his shoulders. He has to navigate tricky friendships and first crushes while figuring out who he wants to be in an often confusing world. He makes rash decisions, leaps to the wrong conclusions sometimes, struggles with self-doubt. In other words, he's imperfect and achingly human, just like the rest of us. Those flaws and vulnerabilities, those messy, utterly normal experiences and emotions, are what make Harry feel so authentic amidst all the Quidditch matches and wizard duels. And that authenticity is what has helped him capture the hearts and imaginations of millions of fans around the world. At the end of the day, we love Harry and all truly great characters because we see ourselves in him. So let's talk about some concrete strategies for infusing that same authenticity into your own characters. First and foremost, focus on giving each of your major players a strong, distinctive voice. A lot of writers get hung up on describing characters' hair color and height and all that surface level stuff. And sure, those physical details can help readers picture the character, but they're not what will make the character come alive. Instead, spend your time developing how the character thinks, speaks, and experiences the world in a unique way. Do they have any verbal tics or catchphrases that only they would use? What's their go-to sense of humor? Dry and sarcastic, goofy and self-deprecating. How do they react when they're stressed or flustered? Do they get quiet or do they start babbling? The more specific and distinctive you can make a character's voice, the more singular and real they'll feel to readers. Another key aspect of creating authentic characters is to show their inner lives, not just their outer actions. It's not enough to describe what a character does. You also need to explore why they do it. What's going on in their hearts and minds as they move through the story. Let readers into your characters' internal experiences by sharing their thoughts, their emotional reactions, their hopes and doubts and fears. One of my favorite techniques for this is what I call the silent movie test. Basically, if you turned your story into a silent film, would the audience still know what your character is feeling and thinking just based on their actions and facial expressions? If not, that's a clue that you might need to dig deeper into their interiority and motivations. Remember, the most compelling characters are the ones who feel transparent and knowable to readers, like we're peeking directly into their psyches. Of course, part of being human is being flawed, and that's something that a lot of authors struggle with when it comes to their characters. We tend to fall in love with our protagonists and want to make them as noble, impressive, and likable as possible. But characters who are too perfect quickly become boring and unbelievable. If there's no gap between who they are and who they want to be, then there's no room for the kind of juicy internal conflict that makes a story riveting. Instead, don't be afraid to give your characters some relatable weaknesses, foibles, and vulnerabilities. Maybe your hard-boiled detective is terrified of commitment. Maybe your post-apocalyptic action hero has a secret addiction. Maybe your medieval queen is plagued by imposter syndrome. The key is to choose flaws that are authentic to the character and make sense for their personality and backstory. Not only will these imperfections make the character feel more credibly human, they'll also give you so much rich material to explore as the character faces challenges and, hopefully, grows throughout your story. One last piece of advice for creating characters who feel real enough to touch: ground them in highly specific, telling details. It's one thing to say, Joanna was a free spirit. It's so much more vivid to show Joanna belting Broadway hits while zooming down the highway in her VW van, dressed in wild thrift store finds with a copy of On the Road on her dashboard. The more concrete details you can use to illustrate who your character is and how they move through the world, the more authentic and alive they'll feel. Think about the songs they listen to on repeat, the mementos they keep on their bedroom shelves, the way they take their coffee or do their hair in the morning. Not every detail needs to be deeply symbolic. The most powerful details are often the most ordinary, the ones that make us nod in recognition, because we all clip our toenails or get annoyed in traffic sometimes. Specificity is the secret ingredient to making a fictional character feel real and relatable. So, let's recap. If you want to create characters that readers will truly connect with and remember, focus on crafting complex inner lives, unique voices, relatable flaws, and grounded, specific details. The more your characters feel like authentic people, with all the quirks and contradictions and emotional depth of real human beings, the more your readers will see themselves on the page and want to keep turning those pages to follow the characters' journeys. Of course, this is a skill that takes lots of practice to develop. I'm still learning and growing in my own character work every single day. But I promise that it's worth putting in the time and effort to get to know your characters inside and out. When you can step into their shoes and see the world through their eyes, when they start to feel like real friends or enemies, whispering their secrets in your ear, that's when the magic happens. That's when you can bring them to life on the page in a way that hooks readers' hearts and refuses to let go. So here's your next step. Go back to your work in progress and really interrogate your characters. What makes each of them tick? What are their secret fears and dreams? How can you showcase their personalities through voice, interiority, and specific detail? Don't settle for a cast of cardboard cutouts. Dig deep to find their sparks and scars and inconvenient truths. The more authentic and alive they become to you, the more they'll leap off the page and into readers' hearts and minds. If this all resonated with you today, let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear about the characters you've read or written who feel the most vividly real to you. Bonus points if you share a standout line of dialogue or description that really captures their voice. And if you want to take your writing skills to the next level and support this channel at the same time, be sure to check out my online course all about the nitty-gritty of crafting incredible characters, worlds, and stories. There's a link with all the details right below this video. Now get out there and create some authentic, unforgettable characters of your own. I know you've got it in you.